company.
Tonight on CTV3 News, Belize Adventist Junior College student allegedly barred from studies due to hair length. Oral hearings in the border dispute case between Belize and Guatemala to commence in 2024 at the ICJ. Central Bank speaks on appointment of new administrator at the St. Francis Xavier Credit Union. And investigations substantiate that the 7 Mexican nationals who were detained in Corozal have no link to the cartel. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Wednesday, September 6th, 2023.
What? You start the show tonight. No talking back. I'm your mother.
There's a boy I know. He's the one I dream of.
What's your name again?
Whitney Elizabeth Houston.
Wake up!
It's on. It's on. Listen.
If he really loves me.
My dream. Sing what I want to sing. Be how I want to be.
I say a prayer with every heartbeat.
Reach as big an audience as I can.
A common criticism of you, your music isn't black enough.
Look, I don't know how to sing black, and I don't know how to sing white either. I know how to sing.
I might have just heard the greatest voice of her generation.
Maybe.
Maybe. It's got to have a hook.
The hook?
Yeah.
I'll give it a hook.
And now, the hottest match of the evening. Get ready for action! Here they come. Amazing! They're unstoppable, unbeatable. They have them on the ropes. The heat rises to the top. 1, 2, and 3. They're on fire! Chiladas. Fire up the taste of Belize with the new Chiladas crunchy tortilla taco chips in its hot chili flavor. Fiery habanero brings the heat. They're on fire! Chiladas. From Snackers, done right, done here.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could see and touch.
Humans and dinosaurs can't coexist. We created an ecological disaster.
Ellie Sadler.
Alan Grant.
You didn't come out all this way just to catch up now, did you?
You coming or what?
That's another plane, right?
Not exactly.
Don't move.
And just like that, I realized some things are better left in the past. But maybe not everything.
I'm most pleased to report that the nation that we have.
When hungry or craving, when laughter or tears, enjoy the best snacking or flavors are here. Asadas, mocadas, chiladas, doradas, Belize for snacking, done right and done here.
Done right, done here.
LG dual inverter compressor cools air faster by operating at speeds as high as 120 Hz with more stability compared to conventional models. It also saves up to 70% more energy by operating at speeds as low as 10 Hz with more stability. It reduces torque vibration down to 40% for quiet outdoor unit operation. Stable operation with low vibrations also results in increased durability.
Noting increasing demands for primary, secondary, and tertiary healthcare across the country, our administration has focused heavily on providing the delivery of healthcare services to Belizeans. As such, since coming to office, we have consistently expanded the delivery of primary care services through NHI. As you may recall, that it is in this financial year that the entire district of Orange Walk is for the first time being brought in with NHI. Increasing access to up to 40,000 Orange Walkenians. The year before, with the same budget that the UDP was using in Corozal for a small portion of the district, we expanded the full coverage of NHI in the Corozal district. So presently, we have almost 270,000 people that is going to be covered.
Good evening with your news, also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. For years, there has been a debate surrounding the topic of religious educational institutions and their rules against boys with long hair. Almost yearly, we hear of male students complaining about these regulations and its infringement to their rights. Well, tonight, the latest student to be affected by these regulations is 18-year-old Shair Manzanero, who is claiming that the Belize Adventist Junior College located in the Corozal district is not allowing him to complete his associate's degree at the institution because of his long hair. In a Facebook post, Manzanero wrote, "They assert that because of my hair length, I am unable to finish my year at BAJC. He says that he was informed that he could no longer be part of the student body. The decision, according to Manzanero, originated from the president of the Belize Adventist Union of SDA Churches. Manzanero further explains, as a Belizean, I am being deprived of my education, excluded and discriminated against because of my hair. Today, when we reached out to the Belize Adventist College for comment of the situation, we were told that the dean was not receiving calls from the media and was handling the situation internally. At this time, we understand that Manzanero is being allowed to take his classes. However, he has not been allowed to register for the semester. We also reached out to CEO in the Ministry of Education for comment on the issue. While she was in a meeting, she did tell us that a report has been made to the ministry and is being investigated. However, CEO Mejia says that schools are being reminded of the particular regulation which prohibits any school from disallowing students entering the school because of the length of their hair. We will continue to follow the situation and report any update as it becomes available to us. During a press conference held today, the Central Bank Governor, Kareem Michael, gave an update as it relates to the situation with the St. Francis Xavier Credit Union, where a new administrator was appointed just this week. Since the placement of Martin Marshalek as administrator of the credit union, the governor says much has been done within the internal governance framework of the institution. His replacement in the institution, according to Michael, came after Marshalek personally decided to leave institution that had nothing to do with the SFXCU.
Was appointed and he began a work with his team. He found he supported what the central bank was finding throughout the bank's the central bank's off-site and on-site examination. In other words, that loans weren't properly being assessed in terms of the borrower's ability to repay. So a lot that was, or a significant portion that some of these loans that were on St. Francis's balance sheet were in fact non-performing, and some of them should have been properly categorized and provisions should have been occurring already to safeguard the interests of the members. So the administrator began to work earnestly with his team to correct for the poor loan administration that was occurring at St. Francis, as well as to up the collection efforts, which worked or has been working so far. He was able, that despite all these challenges, to provide a rebate during that, not the AGM, but the special meeting that was held a couple months ago. So he's setting up the proper governance. He had set up the proper governance framework, and the staff was completely on board with his efforts. I say that only because that we have a good feeling of St. Francis, and we want St. Francis now, in terms of governance and performance, to be a model for what credit unions should be. It's a target to achieve, because a lot of the credit unions have not elevated their governance framework, and a lot of the issues which we see in the past that has troubled credit unions has boiled down to governance, weak governance systems within the credit unions. The transition now is that once we have placed in these governance framework and other policies and procedures, we expect this to be no longer than a year. So we're targeting, depending on how well we do these things, and I mean we in terms of the registrar of credit unions and the administrator and his team, is looking as the final date will be next year, June. So roughly a year and some change. And I say June because that's when an AGM could be held or should be held. But again, this is just a target date. It is not set in stone, and we want to make sure that all the proper systems and policies, procedures are in place. As far as the shift in administrator, the previous administrator had received a more lucrative offer, one in which the credit union could not match, and one in which the registrar would not have accepted, even if that administrator had requested to stay. So it is nothing to do with the administration itself or the operations, but rather that he went on to greener pastures. Now, the person that's replacing him was part of his team early on. So it's a seamless, smooth transition.
Governor Kareem Michael also spoke about the situation at the SFXCU, where the general manager is still being paid his monthly salary while the legal case on that matter is ongoing. While there is nothing the central bank can do to avoid that situation, the governor says there are steps being taken to address the issue.
I know that there is legal action pending regarding St. Francis Xavier Credit Union. Is it a fact that while the administration continues, while the matter is pending, that the previous general manager continues to receive his regular salary?
Yes.
Why?
The law doesn't allow us to do anything other than that at this point in time. And the registrar, I choose not to comment on other actions and steps which we will take to address that.
Okay, I know.
A new Credit Union Act is also on the pipelines and is expected to be presented by the end of this year, according to Governor Michael.
Observation with various events that have happened in the news over the years, less stringent fiduciary oversight, much more informal business, friend and friend, as we'd call it in Belize. In fact, it has been said, and this is anecdotal, but it has been said that if the standards that were applied to SFXCU were applied to many other credit unions in the country, others would have also ended up on a stringent administration. Is there anything in place or anything that you all are able to do to regularize or upgrade the standard of oversight in the interest of protecting the very large assets some of these credit unions hold?
So for the past, maybe even longer than 7 years, we've been trying to bring about a new Credit Union Act. We have been unsuccessful in doing so, and I don't want to go over the reasons why we have been unsuccessful. But come December this year, the central bank, the registrar will have a draft of a new Credit Union Act, which we will then seek support from the Belize Credit Union League for its implementation, the repeal of the previous Credit Union Act, and then the implementation of this new one. It begins with the tools granted to the registrar under the Credit Union Act. The current Credit Union Act is dated, and so we want to bring about the global standard now for credit union operations, and we can only do so if we repeal the current act and institute a new modern credit union act. So it starts there, and of course the central bank is increasing its staff complement to heighten its overall vigilance and surveillance of the domestic banking system. So we expect a new credit union act that will give us the teeth to then do more, not only on the credit union side, but also we have looked at money lenders, and we're also doing different things with the commercial banks to increase or heighten or improve the standard across all financial institutions licensed under the central bank.
35-year-old Lillian Ortilia Borland, a woman from the Corozal district who was reported missing, is back at home tonight, safe and in good health. The The 35-year-old was reported missing on Monday, September 4, 2023, after she left home at about 2 p.m. Since Borland suffers from mental depression, her family was extremely worried about her, but as mentioned, she is now back at home with family. On June 7, 2023, Belize delivered its rejoinder in the border dispute case with Guatemala to the Registrar of the International Court of Justice, ICJ, ending the stage of written submissions. The case was submitted to the ICJ as a result of the people's decision in the 2019 referendum, after which a bipartisan commission was formed to guide the process. And after 4 years of intense work by Belize's international legal team and the members of the Office of the Agent Belize, the rejoinder was submitted and a very strong case has been put forward in defense of Belize's sovereignty and territorial integrity, according to the Brazilian administration. Now the court must set a date for the oral hearings. That could take place in 2024, says Minister of Foreign Affairs Eamon Courtney.
The situation is that the pleadings are closed and there is an election of new judges in November. So we don't expect the current bench to hear the case, because if they do hear it, some of them will come off by the time a decision is to be given. So the new bench will take its seat in February of next year. So we expect either sometime in late spring or in summer we will get a hearing. Our lawyers tell us that the ICJ docket is full, but they believe that by summer we should have a hearing date.
And are you able to clarify for us, how does the Honduras aspect of the case factor into the timelines?
So far, it has not affected the timeline. We have filed, our memorial. We are awaiting their counter memorial. But so far, it has not changed when we expect the case to be heard. Coincidentally, I just received an email this morning with advice on which judges we should support and which we should not support. I have passed that on to our permanent representative in New York so that we can do an assessment. As I said, the election is in November, but we are closely analyzing all the candidates and deciding who we are going to vote for.
As for Honduras's claim over the Sapo de la Keys, Belize delivered its memorial to the International Court of Justice on May 2nd of this year. The memorial was handed to Jean Pelé-Foumet, the Deputy Registrar at the ICJ in The Hague, Netherlands. The memorial, we understand, makes a vigorous defense of Belize's sovereignty over the Sapo de la Keys. Belize, via the memorial, is asking the ICJ to adjudge and declare that Belize is sovereign over the Sapo de la Keys and that Honduras does not have any valid claim over them. The proceedings regarding the Sapo de la Keys began in November last year when Belize instituted the proceedings at the ICJ. As per order from the ICJ, Honduras has until December 4, 2023 to submit its counter memorial. The 7 Mexican nationals who were detained by police during a checkpoint in Corozal on Sunday, August 28, are now back in Mexican territory after deportation. News sources in Mexico allege that the men are well-known underworld figures of the infamous Caborca cartel in Mexico and entered Belize on a mission to eliminate a well-known drug lord in Corozal. After an intense investigation, the police could not link the men to the cartel and handed them over to the immigration department, since the men, at least 6 of them, were working in the country illegally. Today, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade and Immigration Eamon Courtney reiterated to the media that reports of the men belonging to the Mexican cartel have proven incorrect.
We are satisfied, first of all, that the reports in the media are incorrect. They are not related to the cartel. That's the first point. And that is on the basis of, investigations. It seems clear to us that they were brought into the country to work on an existing contract. They were in the country working illegally, or were about to work illegally. We cooperated with the police in terms of collecting evidence and satisfying ourselves that they were here illegally and they should be deported, which has been done. There was one other Mr. Martinez, who is in a slightly different situation, and he's being dealt with in a different way.
Coming up next, Belizeans prepare for Belize Day 2023. The Prime Minister of Belize will be among the special guests. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Dorette Pascasio. I'm Rashida Batar. And we are the resource teachers here at Louisiana Government School. You can find us at the resource room located in the building behind the football field.
The operation of a resource room program in any school seeks to achieve the following objectives: to provide students with specific resource support while remaining integrated with their peers in the mainstream,
to allow resource personnel to serve a wider cross-section of students in the regular school system who require special support,
to provide a system of early intervention ordered to alleviate the development of secondary conditions,
to provide learning opportunities for students with special needs in a flexible manner,
to serve as a source of expertise in supporting teachers in the mainstream,
and to minimize the stigma associated with students receiving special support in a resource room setting.
Throughout the school year, we will be committed to working hand in hand with the dynamic classroom teachers at our school in order to ensure we continue to provide quality education to our beloved students.
Last year, we carried out a reading assessment with students based on the recommendation of the classroom teacher, and we follow up with our successful reading intervention with over 140 students identified with reading difficulties.
We plan on continuing with our reading intervention program, starting up our life skills program, and carrying out several inclusive activities at the school level with our students.
Remember, here at Louisiana Government School, inclusion matters for all.
With Express Plus, you can stream on the go or stream at home. Stream the latest movies, telenovelas, series, anime, or music videos from your favorite local artists. Sign up now with Centaur's Express Plus.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
Asunción's radiodiagnostics is a radiology service that we provide. It entails the services of ultrasound, X-ray, mammogram, and then we incorporated the laboratory services also. So we are actually in the business of images and laboratory. Soon after graduation, and I came back to Belize, I spent about 15 years in the public service. And that was one of my dreams, to have my own clinic where I can provide and help people. And now NHI that is on board, I mean, that just facilitated everything and speeded up everything that I intended to do in my whole career, to be open and to be accessible to all walks of life people. All right. So I would say that yes, indeed, the NHI is going to serve its purpose, and it's going to be great for the people. They will have access to quality health service. The NHI to me was indeed a good venture, and that's the reason I decided, along with the whole staff here to join because it's going to benefit the Belizean society at large, and it will bring the medical services to the less privileged people, quality service. It has been proven worldwide that prevention is better than cure. So if we can detect conditions at an early stage and start to treat it, for example, patients with diabetes, hypertension, which is one of the main causes of death in Belize, then we can avoid these complications at an early stage, and then we are not going to burden the expenses on the Ministry of Health, all right, by having patients in the intensive care unit.
On Tuesday night, San Pedro police found a gun in the San Mateo area. According to reports, at 9:30 p.m., authorities searched an empty piece of land after getting a tip. They found a white bag under an old washing machine. Inside the bag was a black pistol with no bullets. Nobody was around when they found the gun. The gun is now safely stored at the San Pedro police station. The police are still looking into where the gun came from and why it was hidden. Back in the month of August, we reported that a group of 13 Brazilian nationals were intercepted by immigration officers in San Ignacio town. When they were asked to produce their travel documents, they each presented their Brazilian passport with a Belize immigration stamp in it. Upon carrying out an investigation, immigration officials determined that the stamps were all fraudulent, and with that, all 13 Brazilians were arrested and charged for entering Belize illegally and for using false documents. Today, when the Minister of Foreign Affairs was questioned about the case, he said investigations have revealed that more than likely the fraudulent immigration stamp was obtained on the Guatemalan side of the border.
We have tried to identify where that stamp originated. There is one school of thought that it is in Guatemala. Somebody's in Guatemala with the fake stamp. There are another view that it is somebody in Belize. We have taken certain measures to, first of all, take that stamp out of circulation, that particular number, and other measures to try to heighten the security level to ensure that, as best as we can, no fake stamp is used. But that's an issue that is under very close review.
Is there any indication that there would be any inside involvement?
At this stage, we have no direct evidence of that, but let me give you another example of what happens. And it happens particularly with Brazilians, which is one of the reasons why, as I say, one school of thought is that the stamp is in or was in Guatemala. We have a situation where Brazilians are caught here and they want to go to Mexico on the way north. And when you find them and you look in their passport, not only do they have fake Belizean stamps, they also have fake Mexican stamps. Now, they haven't reached Mexico yet. So it is somewhere either in Belize or in Guatemala or somewhere else their passports are being stamped. The idea is that they would hopefully transit Belize, cross into Mexico illegally, which is a strange thing because Brazilians don't need visas to go into Mexico, but they would go in, and if they're caught on the way going north, they would present their passport and say, but I have a stamp, I came in legally, I'm legally in Mexico. The point I'm making is that there is a network of criminals who work in this area, and we are cooperating very closely with the Mexicans, with the Guatemalans, Hondurans, and others to try to look at the flows, look at, share evidence, share intelligence, to try to track and to stop the transit of people illegally through our countries.
Haitians have lost their privilege to enter Belize visa-free, while Jamaicans must show proof that they have paid for their lodging before they enter the country as part of new immigration protocols adopted today. The Belizean government announced the decision after Cabinet discussed how nationals from both Caribbean community island nations are using Belize as a transit point for their attempts to cross into the United States illegally. Since both measures were implemented, the country has seen a reduction when it comes to the influx of these nationals into Belize.
we never introduced the visa for Jamaicans. The situation is that we track incoming people on a daily basis. I get a report on a daily basis of a breakdown. The number of Jamaicans arriving in Belize has dropped off dramatically from we made that announcement that we're reviewing it. And when I say dramatically, weeks pass and no Jamaican comes to Belize. So at this stage, we don't see a necessity to take any step to impose any type of restriction or visa on Jamaicans. I want to emphasize again, in relation to the Haitians and in relation to the Jamaicans, in relation to anybody else, we welcome them. What we will not tolerate is them using Belize as a transit point to go north. So that was the issue. It was a transiting through Belize rather than coming to Belize to visit.
What about the number of Haitians coming illegally?
Dropped off dramatically. Dropped off. I mean, we have, I'm guessing, in fact, I'm certain, that we have less than 10 applications for visas since we introduced the visa regime. And the point is clear. The Haitians were never intending to come to Belize to stay. It was coming using Belize as a transit country to go north.
Usually when you hear the central bank on the media, it is to talk about serious matters having to do with the financial sector in our country. And so it was today when executive members of the central bank held a press conference to help Belizeans understand the role of the bank and the Belizean economy. Today was the first of a series of press briefings planned by the bank to educate the general public about the happenings of the bank.
Our mission is to promote monetary and financial systems, the stability of monetary and financial systems for the well-being of Belize. This is anchored in Section 6 of the Central Bank Act. And so whatever it is that we do comes directly or emanates from the various pieces or several pieces of legislation. The parent legislation is the Central Bank Act, and then it branches out into Domestic Banks and Financial Institutions Act, the Credit Union Act, Money Lenders Act, National Payment Systems Act, and of course a whole suite of other accompanying regulations. Coming from that Section 6, we have a twin mandate of monetary stability and financial stability. And we'll get into the nuances of these later on in the presentation. It's important for me to point out the highlight in bold. Whatever we do as the central bank is with a high degree of diligent oversight and also with objectivity. So, monetary stability. This boils down essentially to defense of the exchange rate peg, the $2 to $1 exchange rate. And we do that, we value it, we hold it sacred, and we go to whatever costs and whatever ends to maintain that stability, because it's important for investor confidence, among other things. Related to that and connected to that is our monetary policy, which we effect through various instruments. The ones which we have used quite a bit recently are the liquid asset reserve requirements and also our cash reserve requirements. We also have a securities requirement which we have zeroed out, and other tools that will come later on in the presentation. On the financial stability side, we have prudential oversight, prudential supervision function. We have a payment and settlement mandate. The central bank is the sole entity responsible for the issuance of currency. And also we act as fiscal agent to the government. In other words, we are banker to the government.
Governor of the Central Bank, Kareem Michael, also highlighted 2 occasions when Belize's inflation has peaked beyond the normal, in both occasions as a result of external factors.
Basis. There have been 2 periods where you can say that inflation has peaked out of normal bounds. That is in 2008, 6.4, and in 2022, 6.3. Starting with the first one, you will know that this is an external shock, the conflicts, geopolitical tensions, that sort of thing, and I think we are all familiar with that story. Similar case in 2008 right after the global financial crisis, there was a shock again to fuel prices, and that's what resulted in that 6.4% that you see. Now we're functioning under a pegged exchange rate. On the right-hand side, Belize again is represented by that solid red line. We have as comparison Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, and Latin 5, which includes Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru. Out of the Caribbean islands, only Bahamas is a pegged exchange rate like Belize. Belize outperforms all of these in terms of inflation. And that, again, is largely as a result of the stability or anchoring our exchange to the US dollar at a 2-to-1. So you can see Belize in red, Bahamas is the black, and these closely move together. Above Jamaica, which has a floating exchange rate, is tops the chart, and then below it, you have Trinidad and Tobago, and then the Latin 5, which I mentioned, is just above. Barbados also monitors or trends closely with Belize, and let me correct it, Barbados also has a fixed exchange rate, but also patterns in a similar way. So, maintaining the peg. What is necessary for us to maintain the peg is a pool of reserves denominated in US dollars. This is challenging because Belize is a very open economy. If you measure openness, which is imports plus exports divided by GDP, that ratio amounts to 101%. Globally, internationally, we rank 12th in terms of degree of openness in the world. This should be not any kind of news to anybody in this room.
As it relates to foreign exchange, the governor explained where it comes from and where it goes for the first half of the year.
Exchange come from. So for the first half of the year, January to June, loan disbursements have amounted to 141 million Belize dollars. Simply, guys, divide it by 2, and that's the US dollars that have added to reserves. Tourism, 763.1 million. Foreign direct investment, around 124.8 million. Exports, 504 million. And this includes re-exports from the commercial free zone. Now, these are the inflows side. What drains the foreign exchange, what it is used for, debt servicing, 95.9 million. Imports, $1.2 billion for the first half of the year. And several entities who are ultimate beneficial owners are non-residents have repatriated a sizable amount of 124.5 million. We know SIB in latest statistics and press release often talks about the size of the merchandise trade deficit. It's clear to be seen here. Imports minus your exports, that's a huge amount that needs to be financed for us to maintain our economy. But this is the additional picture. Where does that additional foreign exchange come from? And you can clearly see remittances adds quite a bit, tourism adds, foreign direct investment supplies. So the central bank has to manage this dynamic. And what we like to think about it is that it's a faucet and we want to control the valve. How much water we let out in certain times when there's shortages, and if there's sufficient in the system, then there's no need for the central bank to adjust its policy or the administration of its exchange rate, its exchange control framework. So there are authorized dealers. Authorized dealers are largely the commercial banks. And the central bank looks at these flows, and through its permit application, which is largely for us to keep an eye on where we are with these inflows versus outflows, then gives that authority back to the commercial bank. The commercial bank uses its pool of foreign exchange to then sell to the everyday person or the person that is requiring the foreign exchange. What we use as a signal or an indicator when there's shortages in the system or when there's pressures on the exchange rate are the two things on the right-hand side. This is the 40% foreign asset ratio. Again, this is by law. Central bank must maintain international reserves of 40% of the total amount of currency and liabilities that it holds on its balance sheet. And a common one, which everybody should also be familiar with, is the international benchmark of 3 months of import coverage. I explained this already summarily, that the pool concept is a joint effort. It is one where we understand that earners of foreign exchange is much smaller than those that need foreign exchange. So there's a very limited group of earners of foreign exchange.
At today's press conference, Governor Kareem Michael also spoke about the central bank's 5-year growth objective. Forming part of that plan is the modernization to online payments and transactions, which will be implemented through a sizable investment.
A few years ago, I believe 2017, we launched our automated payment settlement system, APPS 3. I know I missed out a couple of the S's. But we really are transitioning to more digital form of payments, and the central bank led that initiative with a sizable investment, one in which other participants in the financial system were reluctant to do. And with this investment, we have had a steady incremental growth in the volume of online transactions and digital payments over the past 5 years. I would say that sum total of this is an astronomical number. The value of these transactions online tops 30 billion Belize dollars over the past 5 years. And the central bank will continue to make investments in digital forms of payments, one of which the more recent one is through the National Payment Systems Act, that we have licensed digital wallets, and those will help us again towards our financial literacy project and campaign. But despite all these efforts to move towards online transactions, cash still appears to be king. As a comparison, when the central bank was established, and looking back to 1982, public and cash on demand in a person's bank account total only $42 million. 41 years later, and we see at the end of July 2023, the total value of cash on demand and cash circulating within the public was $2.6 billion. Cash is still a major player in our market. Nonetheless, the Central Bank of Belize is committed to maintaining the public's confidence in our currency, and therefore we have made several upgrades to the currency from the past, where security features have been enhanced to make it easy to check the authenticity of the note, hence deterring counterfeiters. So whatever design graces our bills and coins, our currency will be safeguarded to keep it an attractive, reliable, and competitive payment instrument and store of value of choice in Belize. Now to the macroeconomic outlook.
The 10th annual Belize Day 2023 Dallas edition is scheduled to take place on Saturday, September 16, 2023. This year, the outdoor and indoor event will take place at the One Love Lounge in Arlington, Texas. The event first took place back in 2012, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, organizers took a 2-year hiatus. Now, with COVID out of the way, organizer Omar Ayuso says the focus of the event continues to be raising funds for the needy.
The overall goal has always been to come up with somebody for send, I believe, assist somebody, assist one group or something, So that's always the bottom line, but we can't always make it, but that's always the goal.
Right.
So the idea of and then of course it turns into we tie it into the independence celebration. And so in a sense it's an event commemorating the independence in the States, in the Dallas area, with the goal of raising funds for send, I believe, So that how it progress. But when we do come up on top and we end up with surplus, then when we hear it, so we send for this or send for that. But there's sometimes we are depending on the scope of the event. Like I said, this year I know they look past so logistics are not used to,
With Belize Day considered one of the largest annual gathering of Belizeans in Northeast Texas, the Prime Minister of Belize has been invited to the affair and he has accepted to attend. He will be accompanied by Her Excellency Lynn Young, Ambassador of Belize to the United States, and Sania Murphy, Ambassador for Diaspora Relations. As for the entertainment part, it's all about Belize.
We have multiple performers, and we mixed up in a way where we have we have some culture with sea wills, Paranda and Punta. Then we have young Kyle and Ely from Placencia. So we got two sea wills based out here right now, but originally from Hopkins. Kyle and Ely from Placencia, and tour all over Belize right now, so we managed to get him as a headliner as well. And then we have two Belizean performers based in Chicago and here at Texas. One from Belmopan, two and a half from Belmopan originally, but they perform out there, and they're established performers out there already, and they're into like soca and dancehall and thing. Then of course we secure Miss Amora Jade, Belizean American. She born out there, but her mom not from Range Rock. And so she signed with Trejo's Music there in Los Angeles. So she's making some good big steps, So we figure we give she exposure with the Belizean audience because she kind of unknown to the Belizean audience. So we try to expose her to the Belizean people out there. So we have a good mix of performers.
Also forming part of the entertainment lineup will be DJ Amin Carpizo from Orange Walk. Yesterday, September 5th, 2023, the Ministry of Health and Wellness officially received a donation of medical supplies and equipment from the Strahan and Sigler Foundation. Donation was made possible with the assistance of the Belize Chinese Association and Build Belize. The donation is valued at Belize $100,000 and the items will be distributed to health facilities all around the country. Minister of Health and Wellness Kevin Bernard and Dr. Melissa Diaz-Musa, Director of Public Health and Wellness, received the donation from Dr. Robert T. Sigler, Chairman of Sigler Foundation, Robert M. Sigler, CEO of Sigler Foundation. Attendees at the handing over included Johnston Wu, President of the Belize Chinese Association, Sania Murphy, Ambassador for Diaspora Relations, and Build Belize Chair Sandra Hall, Build Belize Inc. representative. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Thursday, September 7th here on CTV3 and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/ctv3belizenews or our YouTube channel at ctv3newsbz. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at CTV3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.